It's 10 minutes past 8 o'clock, 72 degrees now, and I have guests in the studio. Three of them, sort of two. I don't know. Let's say three. With me today from Reenie's Rabbit Rescue, I have Doreen Dunn, Gwen Kaiser, and Chubs, the bunny rabbit. I'm so glad you brought him again, but I'm so glad you brought yourself too. Welcome back.
Hi.
Thank you.
So you guys are usually here around Easter time.
Yes.
To talk about why it's not a good idea to buy a bunny rabbit for Easter, because it still isn't.
Right.
Right. But you had another purpose for today.
Today we're going to talk about wild rabbits. So they are a little different than domesticated rabbits, of course, and what to do if you find wild rabbits in a nest.
Because it's that time of year, isn't it?
Oh, yes.
Oh, the
many
babies
calls now.
Yeah. Oh, so you get calls saying, oh, there's some baby bunnies and we need to rescue them.
Exactly. What do we do? And so I'm going to just
So you can
try to help out a little bit
all of
today.
us at once rather than having to explain it one at a time on the phone. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, well, number one, Doreen is the specialist. She's a certified New York State wildlife rehabilitator, and we do run Reenie's Rabbit Rescue, but the eastern cottontail rabbits, mainly babies that are brought to us, are rehabbed off premise. So we just want to let everybody know that. And Doreen will be the first to tell you, as most rehabbers will tell you, just leave them alone. They're usually fine, but they're not always fine. And that's where finding a rehabber comes in handy. This goes with all animals like fledglings, the birds, the deer, the fawns. You know, most of the time they're best left alone, but not always. And that's when humans have to step in and kind of learn when it's not okay and find a rehabber. And we'll walk you through that. So, Doreen?
So most of the time people call me and they said, oh my gosh, we found a nest of bunnies. And we have to go through the steps to say, are they okay to stay in the wild or are they injured and need a rehabber? So of course, if you come across a nest and the babies are all alive and they're moving around and their bellies are plump, just leave them be.
Because that means Mama has been out
exactly.
to look for food, but she'll be back.
Mama stays away. She'll be in the woods watching, or wherever she is, she's watching. And she'll come once or twice a day just to feed them for a couple minutes, and then she goes away. So her staying away takes the scent away, so the wild animals don't smell them. Because the babies, they're not going to have that smell.
Okay.
Yeah. So a lot of people think, oh my God, they're abandoned. Well, they're not abandoned. Just leave them be. But of course, if you see that they're hurt, bleeding, or sometimes there's lots of maggots going on. Oh. Yeah. And of course, they need to be helped, of course. Mm-hmm. And if a cat finds a nest and they start picking them up and bringing them to the house, that is 100% they need help. Okay. Cat saliva is toxic to the babies, which is pretty amazing, but it is. Yeah. So they definitely need to go into rehab where they'll get some antibiotics and their wounds will be cleaned up and, they'll get medicine and get all rehabbed up.
If your cat brings you a baby bunny, then you do have an issue and they should call you.
100%.
Okay.
Yep.
So if you want to find a rehabber, you can just Google New York Rehabber Wildlife Rehabilitator.
The DEC website.
And it's on the DEC website. There's a list of rehabilitators.
But you're one of them.
I am, yes.
So that's not the main thing that you do, is it? Or is it this time of year?
I only do rabbits. There's,
okay.
Of course, everybody has different ones they rehab, but I only know rabbits. So that's who I take in. And I do get calls for other animals, which I try to help, but I'm not an expert on that. So I do kind of tell them to look for a rehabber for that animal. But most of the time, just leave the wildlife alone. Once humans start getting in, trying to help them is when we're hurting them. So only if they're injured do they come into rehabbers.
Yeah, we have this idea that, humans have to be with our babies all the time.
Right.
Can't leave them at all.
Yes. I think a lot of people get upset with that. Oh, my God, they're alone. Well, that's the way nature intended it to be at that point, Mom's there. She's waiting. Okay. Of course, if the mom is killed or something, that's a different story. then of course they need to come in too. But that's hard too. Is it the mom? Is it not the mom? So sometimes you have to observe and see what's going on to know whether the mom is still alive or not. But there's so many different things to know. That's why you need to talk to the rehabber.
So how far an area do you travel to help these wild animals, the wild rabbits that you work with?
Well, we stay within New York State, so people call me and they bring them to me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they'll have them and they'll bring them to me.
They'll bring them to you, and where's that?
We're in Salisbury Mills.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So they would call. My name is on the website too. They could call, or they might find a person closer to them, also that they can call.
That's why you were saying that people should check the DEC website and see what's closest to them.
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
I mean,
but if they want to contact you, what's your favorite way to tell people to find you?
they can give us a call or email us at REENIES Rabbit Rescue, and our numbers
at gmail.com.
Okay.
And the number is 845-591-7751. You can text or call, and you'll get Doreen. I mean, you can also Facebook message us.
Yeah,
We check
any which
Facebook
way,
pretty
but-
frequently.
Okay.
Although I would like to say, and one important thing is, if you do find a nest and say you're like, I got to move this nest because my dog's going to get them, or the cat or whatever, you can never move a nest. The mom will not find them. Even if you do it a couple feet away, it's over. She has a natural GPS in her that she knows exactly where they are. And if you move that, it throws everything off.
Wow.
So you cannot move the nest.
You cannot move the nest.
No,
Okay.
no. But there are ways of helping the rabbits stay there and not let your dog get to them. And if that was a problem, you could call and I can help you through it.
Okay.
But there are ways that it can work.
So many details.
Yes.
That
so
we
many
don't think of.
Yes.
But I'm so glad you're here to tell us about them today. And what does Chubs have to say in all of this?
Well, Chubs would like to add in something. If you do have, dogs that like to go out and the baby rabbit nest is in the yard, it's a temporary thing. They're only there for 3 to 4 weeks. So,
Right.
it is an inconvenience to walk them on a leash for 3 to 4 weeks, or supervise them, or maybe, build a structure around the nest, like a fence, or put a laundry basket over it with a cinder block on top. The mom and cut a hole out of it so the mom can still reach the nest. You can be creative and put some energy into it, and yes, inconvenience yourself for a few weeks, and it will be over, and then you'll have done a really great thing.
Another way is you can actually bring the babies inside, and so your dogs can still go out, but you have to put them back in the nest dawn and dusk, right before dawn and right before dusk.
Oh, I never knew that.
Yes, and it's okay that you touch them. I'm not saying go out there and play with them. No, only in an emergency situation you would touch them. But you bring them in, keep them in a dark, quiet space, and then right like 6 o'clock at night, put them back out, and then when it's dark, bring them back in, and then your dog can go back out and play and do that, and he won't be able to get them. But the mom comes at dawn and dusk to feed. So as long as they're back in the nest at that time, she'll feed them, and then they're healthy, bring them back in. But that's really hard to do for twice a day, every day until they're ready. But I don't advise doing that, but if you had to do that.
Okay. No, that's still very helpful to know.
You can do that, and don't feed them carrots and lettuce and all that. Because you'd want to feed them what's in nature. So grass, clover, dandelion greens, they eat bark off the trees. So don't put domesticated rabbit food in there because they can't find that out in the wild. It's going to mess with their bellies. So I always think what they eat in nature is what you would feed them.
Okay. But really, they would wait for mama to come and feed them.
Yes, but as they get a little older, they're still drinking from mama, nursing from mama, but they do eat grasses and things like that. So
Okay.
It's as they're getting older.
Wild rabbits.
There's so many things to know. It's always best to call your rehabber.
Yes. I thought all you worked with was domestic rabbits, and I was completely wrong in that.
Well, see, we're full of surprises.
I know. I'm so glad you came in today. Let's take a quick break, and then we're going to learn more about rabbits, whether they're, the wild ones or domestic ones or tame friends like Mr. Chubs here. We're here with Reenie's Rabbit Rescue on Wall. It's 8:22, 73 degrees at Wall Radio. With me, Doreen and Gwen from Reenie's Rabbit Rescue, plus Chubs, the bunny, are here. And we're learning about domestic rabbits, but really today we're talking about wild rabbits and what you do if you find a nest of babies. The short version is you can't follow your human instinct.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mother Nature knows what she's doing. So let's try not to interfere with that.
Yeah.
So you only take them if they're injured. Okay. Just because you say, oh, mama's not there. Just relax. It's okay.
It's okay.
As long as they're healthy in the nest, it's good. Perfect. Leave them alone. Just
Okay.
leave them alone. But if they are, of course, injured or a cat has brought them in, of course, get to your rehabber.
They need help.
Yeah. But if you can't get a rehabber, I don't advise it, but they can have a little goat milk. But of course, if they're dehydrated, they need to be hydrated first. So there's a lot to know about it. So I don't advise doing this yourself. That's for sure.
That's the short version.
Yeah, but
if you
had to
stay
in
away
an
from
emergency.
the kitten milk, because a lot of people use kitten milk, and really goat milk is a little bit better.
Right.
Okay.
Goat milk. Yeah.
And Pedialyte rehydrates them.
Yeah. Unflavored Pedialyte for children you can use and give them a little, but you have to be careful giving them with a syringe because you can aspirate them too. So everything is very slow.
Yeah.
And you have to really know what you're doing with wildlife or any animal, of
Well,
course.
rabbits in general have an extremely complex gastrointestinal tract. So
Right.
everything's complicated with them.
Anytime a wild animal comes into a rehab or a rescue, you cut their chances already in half of surviving. So they're extremely hard to rehab. So a healthy rabbit coming in was at 50% survival rate.
Whoa.
So the sick ones are even less.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of death in rehabbing for sure.
Oh.
Yeah, especially rabbits are
But you
very
do it
tricky.
anyway.
Right. Actually, it's one of my favorite things because I really love taking care of them and, seeing them go back into the wild.
Yes.
It makes me tear up right now.
Yes.
That's for sure.
So if you have a domestic rabbit as a pet and you find a wild rabbit, can they
They cannot
cannot
produce babies.
They can't
cannot.
breed.
No,
Okay.
they have different DNA. Yeah.
So they're sort of related, but not
But
quite related?
Yeah, right?
Oh,
Weird.
wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So I don't know. Where did the domestic rabbits come from? Oh, okay. Now we're getting
That's
into,
another story.
now we're getting into evolution. So forget that. Okay. I never knew that. They're still rabbits.
Yeah.
They got
Yeah.
the big ears and they hop and they've got the cute little bunny tail and everything.
I get asked a lot, how do you know it's a wild rabbit? So you know it's a wild rabbit because they are pretty small in size and they have the
They're brown.
grayish,
Yeah.
brownish coloring, and their eyes are very huge, even bigger than domestic rabbits' eyes. They bug out of their head. They have bug eyes. And they're skinny, because...
And their nose is pointier.
Yes, they have a pointier nose.
And they have a more muscular stance, I guess.
So there is a way to
Athletic.
tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there are a lot of domestic rabbits that look identical to the color and the size of the wild rabbits. And that is where it gets tricky. You have to look at their heads slightly more squished in, their eyes are slightly smaller. So sometimes it does get hard to tell, but usually it's pretty easy. If you're out in the wild and you're seeing a rabbit that is not a brownish gray, it's been dumped or abandoned or has run away.
It's a domesticated one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you do see a domesticated rabbit in the wild, they don't know how to survive, do they?
No.
Well,
So what should they do?
I mean, they're going to
Well-
eat grass and stuff, but they most likely will be eaten by a predator.
right. But I would say they know how to survive. They eat fine and they find shelter. It's just that, yes, the predators get them pretty quickly because they're not wise to that. But what really gets them, and we've had this happen, people bring us rabbits that have been dumped. They're so sick. I don't think they just have the immune system that the
They
wild
can't
rabbits
survive
have.
out there. They can't.
Yeah, they just get sickness.
And that takes us to the other point that if someone does have a domestic rabbit that for whatever reason they cannot keep, they should contact you then too.
Lately, that has been a big problem because
Really?
it seems like everybody wants to surrender their pets now.
Yeah,
We can't possibly take them
Oh.
all in. There's just not enough people.
We keep talking about this. Stop buying rabbits for pets. They're not like fashion accessories.
Right.
So we have a bit of a predicament, and that is, if somebody doesn't want their rabbit and they call us and we're full and we can't take it, what is that person going to do?
Right.
And they call the shelters. Shelters won't take it. They ask their friends, their family. Nobody will take it. What are they going to do? So that's why they dump it. They open the door and there it goes. So the problem is, of course, in my opinion, it's legislation and regulation. There should be more laws in place that prevent the breeding and sale of these rabbits that just get thrown away like candy.
Oh,
So it starts at the top.
yeah,
I mean, we're trying to educate from the bottom. We're doing grassroots educating.
absolutely. You
And
are.
that is going to affect a lot of people, but really the big change, I think, will have to come from the top. And we need the government and the legislators to step up and create some animal care laws that really are impactful.
that really make a difference. Yes. Well, you're making a difference, though.
We make a difference in the ones we
1,
save.
2, 5, 10 rabbits at a time.
I'd like to say another thing.
Yeah.
In this animal rescue game, which it's no game, something that's really not spoken of is compassion fatigue. And that is when we rescuers are so overwhelmed and inundated with these cases, these tragic cases of these animals. It takes a toll. A lot of people are just like, well, we have to, help the people first, help people, then animals. Well, actually, we rescuers, we suffer so emotionally from this, and it is really an illness called compassion fatigue. And a lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah.
It affects people.
Yeah,
This homeless animal situation affects people.
Right.
Yeah.
We've been doing it 10 years. It's 7 days a week, every single day.
Yes. Every
You
day.
can't skip a day.
Best way for people to reach you then now. REENIESRabbitRescue.weebly.com.
And also just REENIESRabbitRescue.com.
.com. Okay. Plus you're on Facebook and a phone number.
845-591-7751. We're also on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram.
You're doing great work. Thank you. Thank you, Doreen, Gwen, Chubs. Thank you, Chubs, for staying in the basket and not chewing on the wires, although you told me Chubs doesn't do that.
Yeah,
No.
perfect.
Okay, he's very well behaved. I'm so glad that you came in today to work with us. Come back anytime.
Thank you.
And everybody, please love your animals and spay and neuter.
Good point. Thank you very much. It's 8:30 at Wall Radio. Let's get into the news update.